Okay, so my name is Dee Connell. Welcome to Display and Merchandising. I am a retailer. I'm from Invermere, British Columbia. I'm just one of you that has a store and some ideas of what has worked for me, and that's what I'd like to share for you. I don't have a clicker. Hold on one second. Thanks. I'm like, okay. Yeah, there's me. That's me up there. So I've owned Main Street Fun and Games for 11 years. I am in a teeny little town of 4,000 people. We are a tourist destination, though. So what that means is that in July and August, we have 40,000 new people every week that come into our community to shop. It's great for 8 weeks. The rest of the year, it's very quiet, and we just squeak by. So it's a very different dynamic for what we do compared to a lot of other retailers. But what we do absolutely translates to other retailers. I'm the vice chair of the Gamma Retailer Division. If you're a member of Gamma, I represent you as a retailer to the board. And I was honored to receive a Gamma Power Retailer Award in 2022, I think it was. So that was a pretty cool moment for us. I'm also a die-hard soccer mom, which means I don't play soccer. I don't like soccer. My daughter doesn't play soccer, but I am a soccer mom, which means I approach game store display differently than most game stores because my customer base is also die-hard soccer moms. Oops, that's the wrong button. That's the button. All right, so this is what we're going to do today. We're going to, oh, it's over here. Look at how our store's layout, the flow of the layout, and the display can enhance your customer's experience. What I find often when I walk into not just game stores, not just, well, any store really, is that oftentimes it's a crowded and it's a frustrating experience to find things. It's dark, things are stacked on top of each other or at the back of shelves. They're also dusty, which is something that really makes me crazy, but so we're just going to talk about all of the things that we do in our store to help our customers have a great experience when they're shopping. So these are the 3 areas that we're going to look at. We're going to look at floor plan, we're going to look at flow, and we're going to look at function. These are the 3 areas that every year we reassess in our store. And I do it with my staff. They are a big part of the work that we do because they're the ones that are sitting there watching the customers move through the store. They see where those points are where customers are getting kind of choked up and can't get past other customers. So we're going to start with floor plans and talk about 4 different things that I feel are important in a game store. Landing zone, which is vital for a game store and we don't think about much. Gamers in the back, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when we get to that slide because it is something that I've experienced both ways as a soccer mom pre-game store owner, and that was an eye-opening experience once I got my own game store. We're going to talk about butts, not those butts, and we're going to talk about escape routes in your store. So, landing zone. The first impression for your store, I like to call it the Disney feeling. How many of you have been to Disney or Universal Studios or a theme park and you walk in that front gate? I cry. Like every time I go to Universal Studios, I cry because I love it so much. I love that feeling you get in that one moment where you take that deep breath. It's the best feeling ever. We're never going to get there. I mean, it's a dream, but no one's going to cry walking into my game store. But I want them to have that same moment where they walk in, they take a big look around and sweep the whole store and have that same excitement that they would have going into Disneyland. I want them to see something that makes them want to go further into the store and check it out. The landing zone's usually about 6 feet of your store. You don't want a lot of stuff right in that space. You want, first of all, for theft reasons, but you can put bigger things in there. You want it to be a clean, open space. It's almost like a palate cleanser when you walk in and there's nothing there right where you're standing, but everything is around you and you see some really maybe higher value items or higher, more desirable items. I tend to put my plush up there because I sell a lot of plush in my store. I'm a hybrid store, so I'm both toys and games. So usually plush is up at the store. I have my baby goblin up there. I have my baby owl bear and my new baby trinket. They're all in a little cluster right at the front of the store. And the kids get super excited. They come in and say hi to them just 'cause. So in your gaming area, when I first started considering buying a game store, I went to some stores in Calgary. I'm in British Columbia, about 3 hours away from Calgary, and I visited several game stores, Sentry Box, Phoenix, Shoebox, and this was before I owned a game store. And oftentimes, walking into a game store, particularly for someone that wasn't a gamer, just a random customer, a soccer mom, walking into the game stores was really intimidating. And if you have your gamers up front, say playing Magic or Warhammer, it looks really cool to gamers. But what that tells the other customers that aren't those gamers, they're new gamers maybe, they're game curious. What it tells them is that they're not ready or they're not qualified to be in the front in your store. So I like to have my game section and my OP section in the back. Now, a caveat of that is at the moment I don't have an OP section. We've just moved to a new store. And for now, we don't have OP, but hopefully in about 6 months we can remedy that. And what you put on your walls is absolutely going to tell what your customers who the store is for. So if you have anime pictures on your wall and old ripped up posters and decals that are like peeling and maybe not appropriate for everyone, those things they send a message to all your customers. I also agree or feel that same thing with your windows. My windows have a little bit of everything in them. I have a little bit of hobby games, I have a little bit of toys, I have a little bit of family games. So there's always something accessible to everybody, and I change it out at least once every couple weeks. Try and keep your window fresh, because it is inviting for those people that are coming into your store. And again, in my case, because we have a fresh group of people every week, for those 8 weeks, we change the window once a week. All right, let's talk about butts. And it's not butts in the game section, it is fixture spacing. How many here know who Paco Underhill is? Has anyone here read? Okay, it's a great book. It's called Why We Buy by Paco Underhill. It's a little dated. I think the last update was 2008. It uses some very specific gender language for shoppers, women and men shoppers, but the information in it is fantastic. It talks about spacing. It talks about shopping psychology. It is one of the best resources I ever had when I started setting up my own store. And he talks about something called butt brush. And that is when two customers, you can see I have two lovely customers here. One is my staff and one is Dritz, who usually stands in for customers in my store. And you can see how close they are. It makes customers very uncomfortable when they're bending over and they bump somebody from the back. So when we went to set up our new store, and actually when we set up our old store as well, we made sure that there were very few locations where that squishiness would happen, that butt brush could happen. Because at that point you could tell if there was a butt brush spot, people stopped shopping it. They stop spending money in that area, they stop buying things because they don't want to stand there when someone brushes by them. The nice thing about considering butt brush is it also helps for mobility devices. In my store, I get a lot of Chariot strollers. I don't know if you guys get a lot of Chariot strollers in the East, but in British Columbia, they're huge, literally. They're double-size beasts of strollers. They fit everywhere in my store. So that means a wheelchair is going to fit in my store. That means that other strollers shall fit in my store. So if you're thinking about this butt brush concept as you're setting your stores up, as you're rearranging your store next time, it's actually a really great way to make sure that your store stays accessible for everyone that shops there. And you always want to have an escape route. It's really uncomfortable for a customer who goes into a little nook in a store and they're standing there, and there's 3 customers standing directly behind them, and they can't get out of the nook. So we've always tried to set our our shelves up with escape routes in both directions. So this is the program we used to set up a store when we moved to the new store a year ago. Floorplanner.com is free. It is fantastic. If you ever want to reset your store up or kind of get a good vision of what your store would look like if you changed it around, this program here is a really great tool. It's pretty simple. I had a quick instructional. If you're a Gamma member, there's actually a tutorial on there that we did last year as a webinar by Josh Foreman, so that's a good option as well. It's not perfect. Once we set the store up exactly how we had it in the floor planner, we did realize that there were a couple things that needed tweaking, but it was a really good way to get a vision of what our store was going to look like once it was completely set up. So let's talk about flow a little bit in your store. We're going to talk a little bit about how your inventory flows around your store. So when a customer walks in your store, what's the first thing they see? Where do they go to next? And how they move through the store. Our demos and where we put them, and our cash wraps. All right, inventory. And this is the big one. I have 2 big slides on inventory. How do you sort your stock? It's really funny to talk to retailers. I don't know if any of you are on the retailer Facebook pages, but every time how do you display your games in the store by category, by alphabetizing, only monsters do that, but how do you display your games? Unless you're Sentry Box, because that's the only way to do it there, because they're just so darn big. But things like that get very heated. Retailers are quite passionate about how they're going to set up their games in their store. And I love watching the discourse on those. What do you put up front? In my store, dice are right at the till, because it's so fun to just sell dice all day long. Kids walk in, adults walk in, anyone walks in, and they leave with a set of dice. So all my pretty dice are at the store. It also helps with theft. So that's another good point there. At the front, we also have a lot of impulse. I have custom-made mugs from a place that's a local artist. They're $24.99, and they are an impulse buy all day long, which I love. I mean, if I can get a $24 impulse buy every sale, it's fantastic. So putting those higher value things very close to your till that you can point out to a customer as they're going by is a great idea. We talked about sorting level methods there. In our store, things are sorted by category and a little bit by age. So we start closest to the till with things that are going to be harder or more commonly sold, things like Pokemon, things like children's games, because I have a lot of families and soccer moms that shop in my store. So I talk to a lot of soccer moms about games. So we display the kids' games closer, and as you go further back in our store, the more complex games get further back. It is a little backwards in some ways. Complex games require more explanation and maybe a little more hand selling. But what I find is that hobby gamers, when they pick up a game, usually have an idea already about what the game is. They might have seen it online, they might have heard about it from a friend or played it already. So usually having them at the back, you get there eventually, but they have a moment to look at it before you get there. Yes?
What would you call a complex game?
A complex game in my store is going to be different than a complex game in your store. My store, honestly, I don't sell anything more complex than Wingspan. Of course, again, I'm selling to soccer moms who've likely never played a game. So we start with really easy stuff. Lots of Outset, lots of Dragon Dash, lots of the Crooked Crown's going to be great in my store. But once I get them to Wingspan, because we're such a small town, they've kind of adopted a gamer persona. At that point, they tend to want to go to a bigger, more broad game store at that point. So. Yeah, but again, it's going to be different in your store. Chances are you guys have things that are way more complex than that in your store. Sightlines and value are important. We know that for theft reasons. Also to watch customers as they're picking games up. A big part of our jobs in our store, my store, we hand sell everything in my store. My customers require a fair bit of coaxing to buy games, again, because they're unfamiliar with the games. So we set our game side up very specifically so that we can watch what they're picking up and what their patterns are. So when we engage with that customer, we're able to give them a suggestion of a game that they might have maybe overlooked, but they picked up, say, River Valley Glassworks and Azul. Well, maybe they're going to like something else that we can sell like that. So maybe they will like Sagrada. So you want to keep an eye on what they're picking up and what the sight lines are. And there's the other one, Inventory B. We rearrange stock a lot in our store. I don't know how many of you do this. How many of you have ever had a customer that comes in and picks up a game, comes to the till and is like, I've been looking for this for 6 months, and you've had it in your store for 8 months. So because they haven't seen it, every time you move your stock, it's like you got a new store, and they find things that they would never have found before. I love it when you put energy into something that suddenly just gives it right back. So in our store, we have methods. My staff are tasked daily with changing one thing. It's not a big thing. It's usually either just a shelf or maybe change where we do 3D printed dragons. Change where the 3D printed dragons, how they're organized on the display that we use. But it's something that makes a difference in one spot. And then every week, we do change something a little bigger. Usually it's either an end cap or like the side of an H unit or maybe one shelf display. Every month, we'll usually move 2 of our departments. Arts and crafts and, say, science might get flipped just for that month. It makes a huge difference because my science will lay like just absolutely stagnant for a month, and then I flip it over and suddenly I've sold out of all my 4M science kits in a week. So it really does make a difference. It's a great task to give staff, especially on quieter days, which we have a lot of in our store in the off season. So it's a great task to give them. It's also a great time to clean that section. So if you're moving 2 sections, take everything off the shelf, wipe it down, wipe the games down, wipe the boxes down, put it back up in a different spot in a different way. So like, don't just flip it exactly the way it was because they've already seen those spaces. Move it into a different spot in a different area. A dirty store, and again, the soccer mom in me, every time I pick up a game and I hear it grind on the shelf because there's dust underneath it, I live in a very dusty town, it makes me crazy. It just feels like, the impression is that you don't, the impression a soccer mom will get is that you don't care about how clean or how dirty your store is. And that will carry on into everything. So it is something to be on top of. Every time you move a section, clean it and change it. And finally, all the things once a year. We take the whole store down off of the shelves once a year. Now, again, I live in a very quiet tourist town for some of the months. So end of January, I actually make more money if I don't open. So that's when we do that. We will close for a week in January, and we will disassemble the whole store and rebuild it. That way, for the next year, our customers have a whole fresh new store to come to after Christmas. And finally, cash wraps. I have a box of Erin's Thinking Putty, the little mini tins that sit on my cash wrap. Every year, for the last 3 years, I have made $6,000 on that box. Every year. It's never moving, and it continuously sells. I change up the box so that it's not the ratty old box, but that Erin's Thinking Putty mini tins, it earns its 1 square foot of space every single year. So when you find those magic items, make sure that you put them there. We do 3D printed dragons. They sit right in front of my till. They are the top seller in my store right now. The kids in my town, in the quiet months, that's what they come in and buy. And they come in with their $10 allowance and they buy another 3D printed dragon. Some of the kids in my town have over 30, 40 dragons. It's insane. But they just keep buying them, so I keep selling them and I keep them right in front of the cash wrap where I can talk about them. We also like to put quick impulse, last-minute sale things there. We put a lot of our card games in the till or just in front of the till. We have some, Go Fish, all those things that a grandma or a mom is going to buy, or someone who's looking to entertain their kid. So games like that. In your store, again, your customers are different. Think about those last minute things that they're going to want to grab just to throw on there. They're like, oh, that's only $6. Let's add another one. Because those $6 things add up to $6,000, and it's great. Where to do your demos. I did a whole seminar, a 40-minute seminar on demos and how to do them and where to do them. I could talk about this one forever. Demos to me are not games. Again, we've talked about light hobby games and more advanced games. Demos for me are games that you can play in less than 2 minutes, that you can demo in less than 2 minutes. Most customers are coming into a store not to play a game, but to buy a game. They're there to shop. A lot of people will set up games at the back of their store to play. That's a whole different thing. If you're demoing a game to a customer, it should take you no more than 2 minutes. If you have an advanced game that you want to sell, and I've talked about this to people who sell games that are more advanced than I sell. One of the things we've always suggested with that is set it up so that you can demonstrate one round in a game. Instead of showing them how to, set up the whole box, set up the board, set up the cards and everything else, show them how a round works. Because usually an advanced gamer is going to have the knowledge that they need to process everything else that happened before and after that round happened. So think about that when you're selling games. If you're wanting to sell those advanced games, that's great. And I mean, they're great value and great money makers. Think about how you would set up that game so that it's easier for a more advanced gamer just to get a quick taste of it. My favorite games to demo, honestly, I sell 500 Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza every 2 months in the summer. And we put it right at the till. Oftentimes in the summer when we're busy, we have a lineup. I have one staff person running the till. I have one staff person playing Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza with all of the customers. And they just pick it up and they walk out with it. It's great. So that's a great option for that. Other games that work really well for that, Bandito. Piles, oh my gosh, Piles is great as a demo because it gets everyone talking. You don't want your demos tucked into a corner. You want a demo. When you're demoing a game, you want everyone watching. You don't want just the person you're playing the game with watching. You want that, you're basically doing a demo for anyone in the store who's doing this. Because they're trying to decide whether the game that you're playing right now that we're having so much fun with is going to work for their group. So you're not just always selling to that person that's directly in front of you. Be aware that you're selling to the people that are around there as well, and kind of keep an eye on who's watching it because you want to engage them afterwards as well. So they do need to be seen, and they need to be in an area where people can kind of peek in and access. That's why we do it right in front of our till, or right beside our till. So we've got a lot of open space where people can actually see what we're doing. Demo tools that we've used in our store that we would love to use in our store. The table at the top is actually from IKEA. I think it's called a Lax, L-A-X. And they sell them for like $20 or less. If you take 2 of those, stack them one on top of the other, you have a perfect demo table at a perfect height. And it's cheap. And you have a place to put the games that you're selling on the bottom shelf. We did that for years. It was a really good system. We had 3 of them lined up in our store before we moved to the new store. The only disadvantage to the Lax tables, I will say, is they are very light. So when they're bumped, they wiggle. So you do want to, if you have it in a place that doesn't get as bumped, it's a good thing. But it's a great way to set up just an easy demo table. It's a cheap and easy way to go. Calyx. We all have Calyx. Who doesn't have Calyx in their store? Yeah. IKEA's making a mint on us. Yeah. Calyx, 2 Calyx, even 1 Calyx is great. But 2 Calyxes pushed together is the perfect demo size. I like to use the risers on the 2x2 ones so that they're a little higher up. But even if they're sitting right on the floor, they're a fantastic demo space. So yeah, we've used that, and it's great because you can put 4 games or even 8 games if you use both sides, and maybe have 3 games on the top that you're demoing at any one time because there's lots of space there. So they're fantastic. The bottom one, That's my dream demo table. It's really pretty, and actually I have a better picture of one that the bookstore right next to me has, and I want to buy one, but now I feel like they're going to feel like I'm copying them if I do it. But it's so good, and it would be a perfect demo table. I would put like games in each of those little corners, and then I would like divide it up into 4 so I could do 4 different demos all around it. I really want one of those. They're really expensive though. All right, we'll talk a little bit about function, fixtures, display tools, and lighting. So fixtures, this one, feeds. Okay, so we're gonna take our pick on fixtures. Maybe, there we go. I'm just gonna put them all up so I don't forget to talk about any of them. There we go. Who here uses slat wall? Okay, this is almost a survey. Who uses grid wall? All right, who uses like just shelves with the brackets or like standing shelves? All right, who uses pegboard? I have opinions on pegboard. I get it, it's easy, it's inexpensive, but it's really hard to keep clean. So there are advantages and disadvantages to every one of these. Slat wall looks clean all the time. It's sharp, it does get dinged up, so you have to kind of keep your eye on it, and if it does get dinged up, do some touch-ups on it sometime. My plush baskets destroy my slat wall. So every time I do a new display of plush, I have to go in with the paint and just paint up all the spots that it's chewed up. Grid wall, I like the strength of grid wall. If you're using grid wall and you're selling like Gloomhaven and heavy games like that, grid wall is great. I actually did have a slat wall fixture give out on me once because I overloaded it with Days of Wonder games, and I came into the store one morning and they were just all on the floor. So slat wall's great, but it does have limitations. My struggle with grid wall is it's really hard to clean. And again, as that avid soccer mom, dust, even dust that I don't even notice, but it's kind of subconsciously there, dust makes me crazy. And cleaning grid wall is something no one ever thinks of. So running that duster, every time you do those changes, if you have grid wall, running that duster through the grid wall and getting every single one of those squares and cleaning that dust out makes a massive difference. And you'll be shocked at what your Swiffer looks like at the end of it. We use a combination of slat wall and billy shelves and calyx in our store. I love IKEA billies. They're great. They're a little light and they're a little wiggly, but they are super flexible, and we love them. They're great, and they're bright. That's another thing. They're really bright. The calyx is great, and who here uses black calyx? I like the look of black calyx. I hate stocking games in it because they're dark holes, and sometimes it's where games go to die. So LEDs help, and I'm not handy enough to like do that, but yeah, we tried actually magnetic lights that we bought and just put in there. They were rechargeable magnetic lights, but then we would forget to charge them. But yeah, if you can find a way to light the calyx and light things up, it changes everything. All right. This is my dream table right there, and it's loaded up. You can see how nice and sharp it looks. But yeah. I don't know. You know what? If I will post it, I will send it somewhere, and we'll make sure that we find out. I don't think they have it. Yeah, I've seen stuff like that, but I've never seen this one. I have seen a Canadian custom place that does them, but it was like $1,400, and I was on a budget. So. Oh yeah? Where is it? The Rosswood one, yeah.
So it's 3,000.
It got more expensive since I moved. Nice. All right, everyone, go get one of those. But could you see how awesome that would be for demos? Like, yeah, I love it. Freestanding fixtures like this one are a thing that we all use in our store. Calyxes, all that sort of stuff, they're great. Let's see if I can get past that. Yeah, there we go, calyx, duh. I think my clicker is dying, Tommy. Oh, wait, Let's back up a little. There we go, display tools. Pop displays, spinners, and risers, oh my. So, pop displays, does anyone have that exit display in their store right now? Okay, no problem. I used to have it, but it got destroyed. The thing about those cardboard pop displays, they're fantastic, but they do get beat up and they start to look ratty. And again, that's an overall impression thing. You may not even they may not comment on it, but they might walk by it. And even subconsciously, if they see ratty old cardboard that it's all marked up and it's kind of ripped and kind of dusty and the corners aren't sharp anymore, they're going to notice that. They may not consciously notice of it, but again, subconsciously, it affects how the impression of their overall impression of your store is. I tend to use pop displays for about 3 months before I get rid of them. I like to use them longer if they are lasting. I have one in my store right now that has been there for about 9 months, but it's starting to die. I just haven't found an alternative to it yet. Plexi cubes are my favorite thing in my store for several reasons. Plexi cubes, you can put things in them and they can't touch them. So you could set up a really cool dice display in Plexi cubes and then put other things on top of it and they can still see the really cool dice display underneath it, but you've also got display above it that looks really good as well. They can be stacked, they can be, you can add dimension and depth. You can turn them on your side and now you have 2 shoppable layers in one spot. So I love these Plexi cubes. I get these at WR Display. That one I do know. Thanks, Channing. But I have a ton of them in my store. I also use their Plexi risers, and I have a million different sizes of the Plexi risers. They also give your store a touch of class. Honestly, they look sharp, especially when they're brand new, fresh out of the box. You can buy polish for those Plexi cubes. I highly recommend it. It is horribly toxic and you don't want to breathe it, but if you polish your Plexi cubes, they look so much better. It's you know how when headlights get all gummed up? Same sort of stuff. Maybe toothpaste would work on them, I don't know. And then signage do's and don'ts. I didn't put any signs on there. How many of you are WPM Premium? That's the question. You probably went through a full thing about signage when you did your WPM Premium. Signage is a thing, and handwritten notes in front of product looks sloppy. It just does. Even a printer, a laser printer or a bubble jet printer that you can print a clean sign with is going to make a big difference. If you use Canva, I don't know does anyone here use Canva? Does anyone use Canva? It's free. Well, I mean, not all of it, but you can use the free version. You can make great signs on Canva. It's super easy. Even I can do it. And it's a great way. You can do your branding with it. Signage, especially if you're WM Premium, if you put branding into your signage, it makes a big difference on the whole look of your store. I don't put signage on my sections of my store. I know a lot of stores do, mostly because, again, we move our stuff so often, but also it's really small. And if you stand in one spot, you can kind of see everything. So it doesn't really need signage. But yeah, signage for your sections, things like that, absolutely. Using either a program or getting them professionally done makes a big difference. And lighting. So I talked a little bit about lighting up the calyxes, which is a really great idea. And if you can do it, it makes a big difference. This little display that I have right here, you can't really see the light in the top right corner, but there's a little clip light in there. I could not sell anything out of that displayer until I put that clip light there. And as soon as I put the clip light in there, within 2 hours, people were buying the journals that were in there. So a little bit of lighting goes a long way. The problem with it is it shows the dust. So again, we need to make sure that everything, if we're gonna light it up, we're gonna make sure it's clean so that the people have a good impression and then you're having that good experience. The question of warm or cool lighting is going to depend on your store, what you're able to do in your store. I like cool lighting. Warm lighting. We have a lot of color on board games now. The boxes are colorful, the posters are colorful, everything we're putting in our store is bright and colorful. When you put that bright white light onto that, it looks really good, but it can be pretty overwhelming. So I tend to tone it down with a more like a warm light, a yellow light.